Okay, so let's go ahead and define the functions. Now all function files are going to be kept in this func folder here. This just allows us to keep them separate from our root directory, and we're going to include these function files in init.php. So let's go ahead and create a new file. This is going to be the functions that define user operations, so things like checking that the user's logged in and things like registering the user as well. So let's create PHP tags and save this inside of our functions folder, and I'm going to call this user.func.php. Now the reason I'm using the func inside of here as well, just so we know that this is a folder that has a file that has function definitions. Let's go ahead and save that out. So let's make a start on actually defining our functions. Obviously we're not going to be creating the function block, we're not going to create the code inside of the function, but we're going to outline them, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about what they do. So the first function is called logged_in, and obviously we're using our parentheses here, and we can create a block here. Now this function is basically going to return if the user is logged in or not, and that way we can use that on every page to check if the user is actually logged in. So quite a simple but useful function. We also have the function login check, and we can go ahead and outline that like that. Login check is basically going to process our login, so we're going to feed in an email and a password, which we need to add inside of these parentheses here as parameters. We're going to feed in an email and a password, and it's going to consolidate the database and actually return if this is a valid email and password combination. So we need email and we need password. Let's go down and do our next function. The next is called user_data. Now what this function is going to do is it's going to return an array of data. So we have an unlimited amount of fields that we can feed into this function, and we're not going to be defining them as parameters, because if we define them as parameters then we're limited to the amount we can feed in. So we're going to be using a couple of functions inside of here. One of them is func get args, and another one of them is well, actually no, I think that's the only one we're going to be using. Anyway, so let's go on to the next function, and this is user_register. So function user_register. This is essentially going to feed in an email, a name, and a password. So we can define these just here, password. And this will essentially register the user to the database. So this is essentially when we register a user account. We also need a function called user_exists, and what this is going to do is it's actually going to check if a user already exists, and by that I mean just by the email. Because we log the user in using their email address, we don't want the users to register with the same email address. So these are the user functions. Make sure you have it saved as user.func.php inside the func folder, and we'll continue in the next part to look at album functions.